everyone, welcome to the Canoe Wales How to Make a Foamy session. For those of you out there that don't actually know what foamy is, it's basically one of these. And what you're able to do with this is take it over to one of your local streams, nothing too big, and send it down, and it'll paddle down in exactly the same way that you would. It'll go down, it'll go into the stoppers, it'll do cartwheels, it can do flat spins, and when it capsizes, it'll also roll back up again. If you make more than one, you can even race them down, and if you really want to, you could be adventurous and set up a few slalom poles. You can make them to whatever size you want. You can put as much detail in as you like. The more time you spend on actually making the foamy, the more detail you can put in. And then once you've actually finished it, what you'll be able to do is then paint it to your own colours, and also paint the buoyancy aid, and also any more detail actually on the body itself. So the more time you put into it, the more detail you put into it, the more fun they can be. So I guess to start with is the materials that you're going to actually need. First of all, you're going to need just one piece of block, around about 6 inches by 1 inch by 1 inch, maybe slightly bigger, and then one smaller piece of block, and then also a small piece of wire, insulation wire, and then a barbecue stick. And then the tools that you're actually going to require is, the biggest part of this is a cheese grater, a plastic chopping board, a sharp knife, which you'll have to use when you're accompanied by your parents, and also lead weights. These lead weights can be purchased from a tire company like ETS or Quick Fit. They're the type of balancing weights that they put into the wheels when you have a new tire put on. And then the last two things you'll need is a pen and a small screwdriver. You start off with the big block, and with your felt pen, just on the top of the surface, you will draw a rough outline of a kayak. And it only needs to be rough, so you just draw it onto the top there. And you can see there now I've got pretty much a basic shape of what a kayak looks like from above. And then the phone, then away, you mark roughly what the whole design would look like. Now you've got the top and you've got the side all marked out. Then with the sharp knife, you then start cutting away the foam around the lines that you've just put on. And then what you'll have, once you've started cutting, you'll end up with a shape like this. Then once you've got that shape, you can then start foaming with the cheese grater, making the shape of the hull itself. And I'll show you how to do that. So using the coarse side of the cheese grater with the foam, just shaping the general outline of the boat, and the same on the sides, and the same on the hull. And you do that for a good few minutes, just making the shape of the hull. And it depends on the type of boat you're going to be making as to how much foam you actually take off. If you're wanting to make more of a slalom boat shape, then you take a little bit more foam off. Use the coarse side. You can then use the finer side just to make it a little bit smoother. And then you are left with your kayak. So the next part now, once you've now made the kayak, is actually to make the body itself. And that's this little bit here. And to do that, you start off with a small block, and all again, you use the bread knife. You'll cut the block in half. So it's just a small block, and then you'd end up with a small shape like that. And then just cut off the two top sections that are in like a triangle. So You can see there by the pen marks, you're now going to cut off, and they'll form the shoulders of the kayaker. So now you can see you've got a rough outline of what the body looks like. Then what you're wanting to make then is the head. And again, out of the block, just cut off a small square-shaped head. And then what you can do, again, the more detail or the more time you spend into this, the more realistic it looks. But I'm just going to cut a square block to make the head. And that's basically the head, which is a very small part of the block. Then with your barbecue skewer, just cut off about 2 inches and insert that into the top of the shoulders. And you just push it in, wiggle it around a little bit, and then with the head, you can then push that on to the top. And you can see now you're starting to get something looking roughly like a paddler. Then with your insulation wire, what you do then, again, you might need some help from a parent here, is just push the screwdriver through the body from the side to make a hole all the way through. Once you've made that hole, wiggle the screwdriver around so as to make the hole a little bit bigger. Then what you're able to do with the end of the wire is to actually push that through the body. And you might have to wiggle it around a little bit to get it actually to come out the other end. And what you'll have is something looking a little bit like this. Now you'll notice with this particular one, I've actually used a zip wire, and that works just as well. Then once you've done that, if you're using a zip wire, again, you're going to need help from a parent. Just put 2 little holes in the zip wire to then feed the paddle shaft through that you've also made out of the barbecue stick. And then what you can do then is just make 2 little paddle blades at the end. And again, these are made from the offcuts of the square that you had, and just shape them to form to look something like a blade. And then what you're able to do then, you get your boat, and with the other end of the barbecue stick, you then push that into the boat. Now you can see, now you're starting to get a paddler and a boat. And the final bit of detail is actually to put the lead weights on the bottom. These lead weights are pretty awesome for this, because what you can do is peel off the sticky back plastic on the back of it, and then they will stick to the bottom of the hull. You won't need a complete strip, but they're really easy. All you do is just tear the strip like that, peel the back off, and then stick it to the base of the boat. If you want, if you're going to paint them, you can get a little bit of sandpaper and rub it down to make it even smoother. But basically, once you put the weights on, your boat is now ready to take out onto the local stream and go and have some fun with it. What I'd like to do also is, if you've made a foamy, is send it into Canoe Wales so we can see how many people have actually gone out and made these, and actually show the videos to us. We'll put them online, but also we will have a competition as to who's made the best film, but also who's made the best foamy. And the more artwork you put into it, the better the painting, the more realistic they look. So that's pretty much it. That's really, now you know what a foamy is. And I'd like to see if there's any questions out there. Yeah, that's a good question. There is a particular type of foam. This foam you will be quite familiar with. It's actually in the back of most boats, and it's the buoyancy block that supports the deck and gives the boat a little bit of buoyancy. It's a high density foam, which means it can be shaped. Polystyrene isn't actually as good, because polystyrene is made up of lots of little balls and you can't shape it as well. But if you speak to one of your canoe retailers or manufacturers, they actually sell this by the block, but also they have massive bins outside with loads of rubbish in, full of offcuts, I'm sure they wouldn't mind sending you some offcuts if they were able to. So the foam itself, yeah, I would say this particular type of foam, it does work well because you can shape it, you can rub it down with sandpaper, and it gives a nice smooth finish to finish with. However, if the boat is written off and it's an old boat for the bin, then you've got a good opportunity to get the foam out and reuse it and recycle it into making into foamies. Basically, these are a type of weight that you'll find in tyre companies where they use it for balancing new wheels and new tyres. They sell them. If you're going out nicely, they'll probably strips. But I wouldn't pay any more than £1.50 a strip. You can get them on eBay. I think they're about £1.20 on eBay. Alternatively, you don't actually have to use these. You can actually slit the bottom of the hull and push a weighted object into it, such as a pound coin or maybe a large nut. However, what you need to be careful about is that you don't push the weight too far into the kayak. You want it actually on, and that's why these work really well, because they're flying flat on the hull, and all the weight is at the bottom of the boat. So these do tend to work well, and also they don't get in the way when the boat is coming down the water. But yeah, these actually, by the way, is what makes the boat come back up with an Eskimo roll. So when the boat capsizes, the weight is on the top and automatically wants to drop to the bottom. And that's why these foamies are so good at doing an Eskimo roll. Also, if you're going to paint them, some form of oil paint rather than water-based paint. But also, what you might find is a permanent marker. You put some colour and also some detail into the paddler. So on this particular, actually drawn a little cockpit and spray deck, and that's just been done with a permanent marker pen. The thing also to mention, it's these Saturday morning sessions are this particular one about foamies is one of many other presentations that's going to be given. Next week, Dan Goddard is going to be giving a presentation about the importance about the hidden detail of a skill and why it's important to know what that hidden detail is. Because we all want to be able to paddle efficiently and paddle well. And normally this sort of support is only necessarily given to performance paddlers. So it's a good opportunity for recreational paddlers to be able to pick up on this sort of detail. And then the following week to that, Tommy is going to be doing a talk about strength and conditioning and why it's so important for you to be able to do that. Because, for example, if Dan says you should be sat in your boat correctly, then that's all well and good. But if your hamstrings are tight, then that's not going to allow you to. So Tommy will help you to be able to stretch your hamstrings if you're able to link in. It doesn't matter upon the standard you're at. This is important whether you are just starting out in canoeing or whether you're already an active, experienced paddler. These presentations have been put together by the Canoe Wales development team, Reese, Gail and myself, Jonathan. I'd be keen for any feedback that you might have regarding these presentations or anything else that you'd like to hear from us that we can maybe give support to. So I'd like to thank you all for listening in on this presentation, and hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you next week. So thanks again for listening and hope to see you soon. Bye.